Hey everyone, this is your girl Nachi, and I'm here with,
Damaris, also known as the nap enthusiast.
and we're so absolutely thrilled to have with us today Dr. Courtney Witherspoon. She has been caring for our family's health for, I don't know, like the past 8 years, and
Yeah.
it has been,
Easily.
yes, an amazing, you have been such an amazing support throughout our journey, and we couldn't have had a better person to inspire us and share your knowledge on naturopathic healing. So, welcome, Dr. Witherspoon. We're so excited to have you here.
Well, I'm really thrilled to be invited. Thank you so much.
Yes,
It's an honor.
yes, definitely, definitely. So, we like for you to kind of take a moment and share a little bit about yourself to our listeners and what you have to offer.
Okay, so I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine and a clinical nutritionist, and I've been practicing for almost 30 years now. Time goes fast.
When you
Um, and so, being a clinical nutritionist, having a master's in nutrition, as well as having a doctorate in Oriental medicine, for me, it gives me the best of both worlds. I know a lot of biochemistry because where I went to get my master's, it was 2 years of hardcore biochemistry. So I know a lot about the body. I know a lot of how it works. And on the Eastern side, it gives me entirely different perspective. When we're doing East medicine, whether it's Eastern medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, I mean, I do Oriental medicine. We look for patterns and we look for root causes. And so if someone comes to me, if three different people come to me with hypertension, I might treat the three of them differently because their
Mhm.
root causes could be completely different.
Right.
So in Chinese medicine, what's important is that you figure out what the root is. You treat the root, and then of course whatever their current ailment is, we call that the branch, you also treat that. So you're always doing the root simultaneously. So if someone comes in pain and yet they're diabetic and they have slow metabolism and leaky gut, you want to get to the root cause of that. Or I have a lot of people, unfortunately, showing up with cancer. Um, and we could talk about that because that's fascinating. What the root cause is, but in what I've seen over the years is most of the people who showed up with cancer, but I would say particularly metastasized cancer, they have some serious old anger problems that they have never
Mm.
resolved. Basically, PTSD from the past, but generally it's from family life
Right.
and a lot of anger. And to me, cancer is the ultimate expression of anger that has not been resolved.
It's so interesting that you say that because um it was in our first season we had our niece and she Naomi, and she talked about how she does a lot of work. She's like, licensed to do breath work, not licensed, but just like an expert in breath work practices. And she talks about, like, yeah, she sees how cancer can be a manifestation of that emotional trauma, right? That has not been addressed. And for a lot of people, they for them to make that connection of like your emotional well-being as being part of like having such an impact on your physical being is really hard to make that connection, because the way Western medicine has been indoctrinated in this country, right? So it's like, what do you mean a connection of how you feel can manifest itself into such an ugly disease? And so I actually want to step back a little bit, because there's, you touched upon a lot of things already in your introduction, but the idea of nutrition and naturopathic healing, I feel like it's also very much uh, influential in how people's overall well-being is, and that
Yep.
includes your mental health, your emotional
Yep.
health, physical, spiritual. And I've always viewed, and Nachi and I had an episode, well, actually two episodes on big food and the impact of big food industry within this country and how it impacts people's overall health. And that is simply because food is our medicine. You talked
Right.
about you know, the biochemical makeup and like how those nutrients, like those are the building blocks of how we move forward every day. That's our fuel. So I think the fact that nutrition isn't even really considered when it comes to medical school, it's so limited.
Yeah,
Like it's like 10 hours. Like it just doesn't make sense.
it's
Again,
bizarre. Yes.
it is bizarre. So can you talk us through about explaining that relationship to with nutrition and healing, and because I think that's what makes you so unique. You're so well rounded in that. It's like not only just the practice of Eastern medicine, but it's also the understanding the nutritional aspect of this.
Right, and that's why I went back to school for nutrition because as much as I love Oriental medicine and it's very powerful in the United States, and I was like, I need to understand from a nutritional aspect what's going on as well, and that's what propelled me to go back to school and get that master's. Um, but yeah, I mean, food is everything, diet is everything, and what's really tragic today is people tend to have to pay more to get good quality food. I mean,
Yes.
at every turn, our food is being poisoned.
Yes.
Every turn, and it shows. I mean, just to give you, it was kind of funny, but so I had a woman come in, all kinds of gut issues. I mean, and we see a lot of that today because our food is poisoned. Um, and so if your food is poisoned, it immediately destroys the 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 necessary probiotics in your gut that do so many things. I mean, a lot of people don't know that 70% of your immune system resides in your gut. So without good bacteria, your immune system deteriorates. However, if you're eating some junk food, if you're eating fast food, not knowing where it's coming from, food that's been fried in some oil 100 times a day. So it's got all these trans fats and who
All
knows
these
what else
free
in there.
radicals.
All these exactly all these free radicals. That destroys the good bacteria in your gut. And if there's no good bacteria, the bad bacteria, the pathogenics move in. And now, as your immune system, 70% of your immune system resides in the gut. If it's pathogenic bacteria, then people shouldn't be surprised that they get all the colds, that they get a flu every winter, because now your 70% of your immune system is not being supported. So food is everything. The type of food, how much food, the quality of your food, and then of course your ethnic background definitely has something to do with which foods would be best for you, and that would keep you the healthiest.
Yeah, and I
So
was just thinking about that too. Damaris mentioned they don't teach, nutrition in medical school, but I think
No.
it even goes beyond that because when I think about my children and the school lunches and how that's usually where, some families, where some children, it's the only meal that they get, during
Uh,
the school year. So, and I look at the food that they offer and it's baffling to me, and it makes it difficult when you try to explain to your children you need to be mindful of eating certain things from the cafeteria, right? Talking about the seed oils, talking about, okay, you like pizza, but the dough that they're probably using is probably bleached, enriched flour. And
enriched with shit.
right.
right.
Enrich is supposed to be like good. No,
Right.
they learn how to just switch the meaning of enriched in our
Right.
food system.
Yeah, and I just felt like it has to, be also taught and encouraged in school because I feel like nutrition only comes into play really when people become ill with a chronic disease like diabetes. And
Right.
that's when their physician or their provider would start talking about, well, maybe you should, manage your meals and the food that you eat,
And
when
not
that
even all
was
the
never a
time because
topic
yeah,
before then.
And I would say not even all the time, because I
No.
find that, again, they're so quick to just be like, well, here, try this new
Mhm.
drug, this new prescription that's on the market.
Mhm.
Uh, again, legal drug dealers. So, I mean, you know, I say that respectfully. Um, but it's just like it's easier to push a pill because it's just, again, a one shot panacea to address something that is just a symptom and not the root cause of
Mhm.
why they have diabetes.
Exactly. And and you see some very crazy stuff in the news, online. Um, there are certain corporations that are desperately trying to pretend that sugar has nothing to do with diabetes. You've had to see that. Oh, it's not sugar.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
meat. It's not.
Yeah, it's always something that they're trying
It's
to
it's
promote.
something else. But the good news is that it's a small group, but a growing number group. We are seeing medical doctors who really want to get their patients well. And those
Mhm.
doctors are going back to school for functional medicine. And which is very similar to what nutritionists, what naturopaths do. We get to the root cause, we figure out, the right dietary plan that's individualized. We look at allergies and help them to, and there's ways they can overcome allergies. People don't have to be allergic to foods for all their life, but often the food they're eating is problematic and they just have to switch on that.
Mhm.
So the good news is that these doctors that go back to school for a year to a year and a half and are learning functional medicine, that's the holistic way to do Western medicine. And actually, most once they go through those courses, they rarely give out medications. They give it out, if it's an emergency,
Right.
but then they're working to wean people off. And they're looking for the root cause. And so I think that's very exciting. The problem is those doctors have come to realize that insurance won't cover what they do.
Hmm. Right.
So they have to figure out different ways and different plans, because they definitely need to be paid. Of course, they have nurses they have to
Yeah,
pay, and
they're providing a
Right.
service.
receptionists, and they have a lot of equipment that they have to upkeep. So we're seeing different doctors who practice functional medicine are now utilizing different types of pay plans so they can bring not just the rich into their practice, but other people as well. So I think that that's great. I'm really more people will be able to actually find a plan that works for them and get well, and that's what we do. Um, what I do see is people are getting so much misinformation from people with credentials. Of course, I won't name any of them. However, some of them are medical doctors who are being reckless, absolutely reckless. I guess because they have that MD, they assume that they can take a weekend course in nutrition and then go online and tell people this is
Ooh,
what you're supposed to do.
ooh,
Now, I'll
child.
give you for an
Ooh.
example. I am seeing many people. I've seen at least over 42 people in the past year who come with very similar symptoms. And after the third one, I knew exactly what was going on. All of these people were being poisoned with vitamin D. Vitamin
Mhm.
D, vitamin D. And
Mhm.
so that's what you hear in so many medical doctors. And I'm sure they mean well, but since they haven't really studied nutrition, vitamin D can kill you. Vitamin D can cause your liver to fail. If you're taking, and you don't even have to be taking very high amounts. If you're taking as low as 5,000 units a day, over the course of the year, you're going to start getting sick. It's just too much. The liver was not
Mhm.
meant to have 5,000 units a day.
Right.
And yet, listening to many doctors who, I hear online, they're like, oh, you can take as much as you need. One doctor, he said, I take 150. I'm like, if he's taking 150, he's lying because he'd be dead.
Ooh,
And in fact, I happened to see someone made a comment under that particular video where this doctor said, you can take as much as you want. This woman writes, my father is in the hospital because he's poisoned with vitamin D listening to this doctor.
ooh, ooh.
Mhm.
So, so I understand why people are confused. But now I know. I mean, every month I get 3 to 4 people who come in who are being poisoned with vitamin D, and there's many symptoms. Some people start itching. First is one little area, and then it starts itching all over their body. Of course, they go to their allergist and can't find the allergy that's causing that itching. They may take a steroid, doesn't stop it. Some people start getting little black marks. And like, what are these itchy black marks? Other people just start feeling nauseous in the middle of the day, just for no reason. They're like, why am I feeling weird? And then other people suddenly can't eat any food. Everything they eat causes, great indigestion, loose stools. So I had a woman like that come in. She had all of these digestive issues. She was itching, and I was like, and I asked people to bring in everything they're taking, and so she had brought in her D3, and she was taking 20,000 units a day.
A
Ooh, yeah,
day.
that's
Oh
it.
my
I was like,
gosh.
okay, I know what your whole problem is, and you're about to
Right,
die. You, she was
Oh
like,
my
right.
what?
goodness.
She said,
Yeah.
but I heard this doctor. I'm like, so this is what I suggest you do. When a medical doctor is telling you to take a particular supplement and and telling you there's no limit on dosages, look up his credentials. Most of them are definitely MDs, but they're not. You don't see anything about them have gone back to school for nutrition, so they don't realize that fat soluble vitamins can harm you. Too much vitamin A, too much vitamin D, too much vitamin E, K, they can all cause your liver to fail, and you're gone.
And to your point, Dr. Witherspoon, you also pointed out that these are individuals that are promoting this, like, let's say on a social media platform, versus if you don't have an appointment with your doctor and your doctor didn't specifically prescribe this to you,
Right.
do not take the advice of an Instagram influencer without seeking your medical practitioner, advice, or because they have your record, they know what's happening with you, so they can let you know if this is applicable or not. So, yeah, like, just because this doctor online said this, it's like The Simpsons, it's like I play a doctor on TV. I mean, I don't know, right? But
Right. I played the right. Exactly.
right. So,
Right. They need to seek out. People need to have a
yeah,
nutritionist or a
yeah,
naturopath, and
right.
their medical doctors. Absolutely.
Yes.
But
And
you need a nutritionist because your medical doctor just hasn't been trained in this.
right,
Yeah.
right. And
And I
although
think
I,
it's
I have read that they are trying to change that, and
Okay.
which is great, but that's going to
Absolutely.
take time, right?
It's
Like,
on it.
that's
Right.
not, this is a drop in the bucket right now. Like,
Right.
okay. But I do want to mention that by no means I have faith in Western medicine. But I've learned over the years that for me, Western medicine is to address an issue, and I don't use it for preventative care. I go to
No.
you for preventative care.
Right. Exactly.
They are a
yes.
last resort. That and
Right.
that is because from my own experience with myself and my mom, and that's we started going to you because my mother's, well, Nachinai's mother, her medical doctor prescribed her a high blood pressure medication that she did not need. He prescribed it for her for preventative measures because she has a family history of that. And what that drug did to her was it resembled symptoms from someone suffering from celiac disease. My
Right.
mother she was a guinea pig. She underwent through so many procedures to see what it was that was making her sick. This woman couldn't hold down any kind of food. Within a year, she lost like 40 something pounds. That's a lot for someone who's 5'2", 5'3". We were at our wits' end of what is happening with our mother. She is going to see all these specialists. No one can identify what the hell is wrong with her. Her medical doctor is trash. So our cousin Emilio, who we had on the show, he suggested you because he went to you, and you were a lifeline. Literally that day. First of all, you took 5 minutes to go on drugs.com, looked up the medication because, as you already mentioned, you asked for your clients to bring in everything that they're taking.
Right.
You plug that in, and you were like, "Oh, one of the side effects here says that can resemble, issues of symptoms of celiac disease, although it's not celiac disease." And it was just like, I wanted to cry because I literally felt like, wow, I could have done that myself. But guess what? That wasn't my fucking job. That was the job of her medical doctor to have taken 2 minutes, 5 minutes to just look up what the side effects were to see that it was actually this one drug that she was taking daily that
Right.
caused this issue on her.
Causing all those.
And you're so good because you don't tell your clients to be, don't go to your doctor anymore, your medical doctor. You
Never.
say, continue going to your medical doctor. Let's try to wean you off of this medication that's not making you feel well. And you were like, you could stop immediately or you could be weaned off. I was like, we are stopping this immediately. I was like, who
Telling
are
my
you
mother.
talking to? And I mean, yeah, I was my mother's mouthpiece, but she has complete trust in us. And so literally that night was the first day she was able to eat a bowl of rice.
That's right. I
And
remember.
I felt like we
I
called my
think
father who
everyone
was
was
still in Florida.
rejoicing.
Yeah, he was still in Florida, and we're telling him, what happened, and you put her on a list of supplements to address all the damage her body had gone through because of the medication and the fact that she wasn't able to eat proper nutrients. I mean, the woman was living off of Ensure for like the last year,
Right.
and
Oh my God.
yeah,
I
and
remember.
my father sounded like he was about to cry when I told her that she's eating a bowl of rice. He was like, "Oh my God, mommy, she has." And that's when I was like, oh, hell to the no. We are not doing this anymore. And we found her a different doctor. Now she's the medical person when it comes to caregiving of our parents. She found a better doctor and then you were just part of our overall approach in you're a family doctor now. Because after that, I saw that miracle happen. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm dealing with some sort of alopecia. And this dermatologist just keeps giving me steroid injections on my scalp. Nothing's happening. They put me again on a drug. Nothing's happening. And I was like, oh, I got to go to Dr. Witherspoon. I went a month later. I remember you were like, oh, no, your hair's coming back. I was like, praise God. I was like, this girl cannot go bald.
No,
My
way too
crown,
young.
this is my glory. No, this is my crown of glory. I was like, no, 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 no. We need Black Beauty back.
Right.
So she came back. She came back.
Yeah, I think we all have like stories
And
like
so,
that because it's the same thing.
yeah, and I say all of this because, and I'm sharing our personal stories because it is not to say that I don't believe that there is a place for Western medicine. I absolutely believe there is. I mean, for surgeries, all this stuff, great. But I'm not looking to it for preventative care because it's shown me that that's not what it's there for me. I need people to use their critical thinking skills and think for themselves about what is right for you. I respect medical doctors, but the approach, I need something else. I need something different. And I get that from you. And
Well,
we must protect.
drugs aren't for prevention. I mean,
No,
thank
they're
goodness for
not.
No,
Western
not at
medicine
all.
because they save lives. Absolutely.
Yes.
If you're shot, don't come see me. Go
Right,
to
please do not go Dr. Witherspoon. She cannot help you.
exactly. So
Go
we
to the
love
ER.
Western medicine. It
Yes.
certainly it has huge benefits, but as you said, it's not for prevention. You don't take a drug for prevention. That's when you have to design your own natural prevention, the right
Hmm.
foods, getting sleep, adequate sleep, making sure you're in tune with yourself, whether that's just 15, 20 minutes of some type of guided meditation, and of course, to have some modicum of exercise. Because we don't stay healthy if we don't move. I tell people you have plenty of time to stay still when you're dead.
Ooh.
As long
I
as you're
know that's
living,
right.
our bodies are designed to move.
Oh, I
And
can't. I
we
love
stay
it.
healthiest if we do some level of movement.
Right.
And that's prevention.
Yes.
And that is prevention. Even like women with breast prevention, I tend to recommend doing prevention that doesn't include radiation. Like sonograms and thermograms. So many
Right.
ways you can, and of course, your own uh, um, taking literally your breath in your own hand in the
Right.
shower or in the bathroom. Because in fact, most tumors have been found by the
The
woman themselves
self-examination.
doing their own breast examination, right? So it's just better not to have radiation if that's completely possible. You always want to look to see how you can minimize radiation, how you can minimize medications because they all have side effects. And drugs.com is definitely the best place to go. If you understand sometimes you have to take a medication, at least temporarily, until
Right.
you can get to the root cause and figure out, how to cure this. And so I'm all for that. Blood pressure is very serious. So taking a blood pressure medication is important until you can find the root cause and work and
Right.
get your blood pressure back to normal. But in the meantime, blood pressure medication is definitely preventing you from stroking out
Right.
or having that imminent heart attack. So I'm happy to have Western medicine as a backup and for emergencies. But in order to live a healthy life, a person has to figure out a good diet that gives them a wide variety of nutrients, a good diet, and a good lifestyle. So if your lifestyle is promoting your health, then you have a good chance of living long and living healthy. What I see is people are living longer, but they're sicker. And I
Yeah.
don't see them enjoying their life. They have all these aches and pains. I've had people come to me literally. One woman, she was on 14 medications, and medications were the reason she was so miserable. She had every side effect in the book.
Right.
I could
And
imagine,
so
yeah.
people have to take their own health into their own hands
Yep.
and decide, and you find someone you trust. You find a trustworthy nutritionist. You find a doctor that actually cares about you and doesn't run you out in 5 minutes. Obviously, he can't take an hour, but at least a solid 15, 20 minutes to hear what you have to say and then pursue that, not just maybe look at an arm or something and write you a prescription. You want a much more caring doctor that actually sees you as as important as someone in their own family who
Right. You're absolutely right. And again, Nachi and I, we always say that we have to protect you at all costs.
Yes,
Dr.
we do.
Witherspoon. No, 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 no. You are a light in our community. You are so generous and fair with your time. I tell people when I recommend you, prepare yourself, prepárate, you're going to be there for some hours. It's fine, but it's worth it. Like you are thorough. You
Yes.
actually look at everything. You approach it holistically and and you have like these great arsenals in your toolbox. So I want to talk about here. You talk through some of those Eastern practices that you incorporate, like acupuncture and other things that I've actually benefited from through going to you for that.
well, acupuncture is just a wonderful tool, and uh, it can be used for just so many types of health issues.
Mhm.
For example, I do get some people who are in the process of getting chemotherapy for they come to me, they've already made that decision. They're working with their oncologist, they're getting chemo. However, their white blood cells are plummeting. And the medication to bring it up is very harsh.
Mhm.
But there's acupuncture that also will restore your white blood cells. So often people will come for that, and then they don't have to take this very harsh medication to get their white blood cells up. And so I've had some oncologists actually call me. They're like, "I didn't know acupuncture could do that." I'm like, "Acupuncture does a whole lot of things."
Yes,
and
Here we
definitely.
go.
so they send more people to me. They said, people hate this shot I give them to bring their white blood cells up. A lot of people don't feel well after this. He said, I can send them to you. I'm like, that works. So I see a lot of people just to maintain from some certain oncologists to maintain their white blood cells as they're going through. But of course, when they come to see me, then I also advise them on different nutritional things to take so they maintain their energy.
Right.
And if they come to me right before they start chemo, there are certain nutrients they can take where they won't even lose their hair.
Mm.
So they keep their energy, they keep their hair, everything's good, and we keep their white blood cells up. So, acupuncture can't. So that's what's called integrative. When you use Eastern medicine along
Mhm.
with Western medicine, and people get the best of both worlds.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when mommy had shoulder surgery, and afterwards she had to go to physical therapy. And so they gave her pain medication for that. It wasn't really doing much for her, and she was the physical therapist. Every time she would go to her session, she would literally cry because of the pain that she was in. And the physical therapist has said, "Listen, if she's in this much pain, it's going to be hard to do the exercises that she needs to do to, you know, for her shoulder to improve." And so he said, "Why don't you follow up with with the with the surgeon and see if they can prescribe her a different pain medication, a much stronger one, and then just get back with me." And we had talked with you, and you said try going to an acupuncturist. So Damaris and I, we were searching, looking up for an acupuncturist. We found one, and this woman, she's she is she's actually she's Chinese, and she has a medicine in traditional Chinese medicine. And so literally just one day, I mean, she had several sessions after that, but after the first session with the acupuncturist, when she went back to her session, the physical therapy session, she was able to move her arm in the position that he had her, and she was not crying. He was amazed. He said, "Well, did she take, what kind of medication is she on?" I said, "Oh, we didn't change her medication. I just took her to an acupuncturist, and she just only had one session yesterday." And he was amazed by it. And I was too, because I thought she would have to do maybe several sessions before she would start feeling the effects of it, but she didn't. It was after that first one, and it had alleviated so much of the pain that she was suffering that she was able to continue on with her physical therapy. Now,
Wow.
she hated the cupping because that was one thing that the acupuncturist would included in her session, because she said, if we're really going to deal with pain, it has to be more than just needles, which is kind
Right.
of interesting. When we went to a different one, and this person, they just did the needles but no cupping. And so when she said that it's necessary to also do the cupping when you're dealing with pain, you'll start seeing a better effect. I was just like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense. All right. But we were just like so excited that, because my biggest concern was having to give her narcotics where she maybe become addicted to it. Not that she has an addictive, but it's like when you're on something for a very long time, yes, you can become addicted to it.
Right.
And it's very hard to kind of wean them off of it. So I didn't want to put her on this strong medication unnecessarily when it really wasn't going to do much to her. So it was like a blessing in disguise for us. It definitely was.
I know cupping is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's very powerful, and it definitely frees up the muscles. You have much better range of motion, and that's probably why she could then work with the physical
Mm-hmm.
therapist and not be in that kind of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she would curse the Chinese lady out in Spanish, but
Yes. She would
right?
every time we laughed.
Yeah, she was
Every
not happy.
time, and then she would see the bruises on her back, because of the
Yeah,
cupping. She's like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, she beat me up." I'm like, "She did not
but like,
beat
you
you up."
didn't get beat up, Bobby. You're improving. You should be thanking this lady.
absolutely.
Right.
Which,
Yeah, it
which,
definitely frees up, and it also breaks up scar tissue. Does a whole bunch of things. It's great.
Yeah,
mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
but this is where you're our family doctor, and and we have that relationship where we can call you or text you like, hey, this is happening with mommy. What do you suggest? Because, she had this major surgery. And you're always with us every step of the way, like, okay, this is what you need to consider. And look, and it's also evolving. Like when we go to you for visits, our healthcare plan from you changes and it adjusts based on
Mm-hmm.
what's happening in our lives. I mean, you even told me something as simple as when I went to you my last appointment, you were like, oh, you're menstruating, so that means this is why some of your numbers are off. And it's like, oh, okay. And so now it's like, all right, you take all of that into consideration, or
Absolutely.
you have to, right? And as women, especially, like our makeup is different,
Right.
so there are just things you have to take into consideration, and so you do that, and you do that well, and again, your toolbox is full of all these things. Like one of the other things you had mommy do was the Qi Gong exercise. I mean, you actually have us all do it, but we were really adamant about mommy doing it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I remember during like quarantine, she and I would be doing it in the living room, like our little Qi Gong exercises or sun salutation stuff. All of that is all a part of your overall health and
Absolutely.
contributing holistically, not just one aspect of like, take this medication for this pain in your arm. No, what are you doing holistically to improve your overall well being?
Exactly.
And I feel people just don't make the connection of every single thing matters. Like, everything is connected. We're not,
Yes.
as human beings, we're not a sum of our parts, right? Like, we're the whole thing. One part isn't, we're not in silos.
No, we are the sum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm curious to hear from you, given you've been doing this for what, over 35 years, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of things and a lot of evolution even with your practice.
Yes.
So what are things that you like, what are the top things you would recommend to anyone, regardless of like whether they see you or not? Like, these are things you need to do for optimal health. What are those things that people should consider?
They should definitely consider eating organic. There's plenty of studies. Pesticides co- can and do cause cancer. They definitely cause massive inflammation. They alter how your biochemistry works, which once it's altered, it could lead to an autoimmune disease. Could lead to other growths, other fibroids that so many women get. Because a lot, what I've seen over these years is a lot of things that were not around 30 years ago. Now a lot of people are having.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't when I started out. I think fibroids were just starting, and over through the 90s and early 2000s, it kind of exploded. Just
Hmm.
so many women getting fibroids. It's not something I grew up with. So it has to be environmental. So people have to look to see how they can make their environment much more conducive to their health in your home. You know, do you have now everyone or almost everyone has computers, has these cell
Mm-hmm.
phones. It's very useful to have, there's certain plants that you can have in your home that actually absorb a lot of the EMF radiation that we're being exposed to.
Oh, what are those plants, Dr. Witherspoon?
Well,
Yes.
I know spider plants are one.
Okay.
There's some cactus that also absorb them. Um, so these are the type of things people can begin to do to make their home environment more conducive to a healthy environment. What you're cleaning with. What do you clean with? If you're cleaning with ammonia, you are setting yourself up
Yeah.
for things like lung cancer later on. Lung cancer,
Lucha.
surprisingly, is still the number one health problem that kills women. Lung cancer.
Really?
Yes, and uh, almost 47% of them never smoked.
Yes, wait,
Wow.
Dr. Witherspoon, hold that thought. I, my childhood best friend, she grew up in a church, so they were very close, a very close-knit community. And one of the people in her church, a family that she grew up with, literally, the woman wonderful, nice lady, had 2 boys, husband, a beautiful family. She was diagnosed with lung cancer, passed away soon after.
Mm.
Someone who did not smoke. And I remember when, I think we might have been in our 20s when this happened. And I remember thinking, like, she never, how did she get that? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
So it is firsthand account. Like, I know, I remember that. And it always boggled my mind because I was just like, how can someone be diagnosed with lung cancer and never, and it's not even like, oh, secondhand smoke, like her spouse smoke. No. So where does this come from? Lung cancer. Well, but it's interesting that you say that. I just wanted to point that out.
Oh yeah, these toxic solutions people are using,
Sometimes
definitely are
combining.
causing. It's number one. Breast cancer is
Hmm.
right behind it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And speaking of breast cancer, well, I'm giving a webinar on in 2 weeks, and there's going to be information on my professional Instagram page about this webinar. But it's going to be on preventing breast cancer. There's way too much breast cancer. Over
Yeah.
21 million women have gotten breast cancer over the years, over the last 30 years.
Jeez.
This is insane. The good news is
But
that
hey, wait, but hey, wear the pink ribbon and support further research into when we know full well how we can address this. But yeah, no, keep paying into that.
yeah, no, it's terrible. And I mean, just yesterday I got calls, 2 more women calling me with breast cancer. Um, it's just too. Actually, I should say this: it's only 13% of American women who get breast cancer. Now they may get other cancers, but only 13%, which means 87%. But those 13%, that's 21 million women. That's a lot of women.
That
Too many,
is.
That's
too
way too
many.
many. The good news is that 90% of women who don't have metastatic breast cancer survive due to advances in Western medicine and in natural medicine. More people are becoming aware of, oh, it's my diet. Maybe I
Right.
can't have any more of that fast food if I really want to get well. So people are now stepping up, changing their diets. At least people, particularly people once they've been diagnosed, because I hear that all the time when they call me. They're like, "Up, I changed my diet right away." So you have a 90% chance of definitely getting through it. Um, Metastatic breast cancer, that's really bad. At least so far, less than 28% of women actually survive that. So you're talking about, yeah, a majority of women do not survive metastatic breast cancer,
No.
and more Black women get metastatic breast cancer than any other group, and more Black women die from metastatic breast cancer.
Of course.
So these are things that people have to start thinking about. You think about, how am I living? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting fresh air? People all inside with these things. Am I moving? Is my food clean? Do I have a good variety of foods? You'd be surprised how many adults don't eat vegetables. It shocks me. They come in, they're feeding their kids vegetables, but I'm like,
They won't eat it.
when they bring me their food journal, I'm like, I don't see anything green. Hello, where's the green food? And they go, well, I have it like once or twice a week. I'm like, no, that will not work.
Right.
You need it every day.
I know it's yeah. So, people just, and we're all busy. People are working, they're having a family, or they might be working 2 jobs, and people are just busy, understandably. But if you neglect yourself, guess
Yeah.
what? One of those days, you're gonna suddenly have symptoms. They don't come out the blue. They come
No.
because you have not been paying attention.
There's an imbalance.
Totally,
Yeah.
you have not been
Yeah.
paying attention to your diet, to your lifestyle, and at some point, your body is done. Your body's like, okay, you're not taking care of me. I'm gonna force you to pay attention.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned inflammation, and I think I've that word is gets tossed around a lot, especially when you're looking up anything with regards to health and approaching it naturally, and it's like inflammation. But what does that mean? Because I understand it, but I would love to hear your explanation of like what inflammation is and why it's bad.
Sustained inflammation is bad. Of course, if you have an accident, things are going to swell. That's actually part of the inflammatory healing process because it's only supposed to be around for just a limited amount of time. And that's why if you fall on your knees, you're going to ice them because you have to bring that inflammation down quickly so it doesn't start damaging the tissue even further. The problem today is we see people have systemic inflammation for long periods of time, mostly because of what they're eating. And some people think they're on a good diet. I love that because when before people come, my assistant says, please bring a 3-day food journal because the doctor wants to know what you've been eating. And they'll say something like, "Oh, I have a great diet." And when I see them, I'm like, "Are you kidding?
This isn't great.
You
I mean,
thought this was a great diet?"
You're like, how? Where?
Like, now I know why you have your health problems.
Where'd you go to school? School actually doesn't help. So
And they're like, "Oh," but most people will say, "Well, they said." I'm like, "Who is they?"
mm-mm.
Well, someone I was watching on Instagram.
Oh
Okay, and
Lord,
what were their
right?
credentials?
No,
Oh,
you
go
guys got
right
that
back to the
I'm like,
secret.
yes.
okay,
Go
so
back
they
to
didn't
the
have any
credentials.
credentials. What were their references? It's
Right.
okay. I mean, you don't have to have gone to school for nutrition, but at least do your homework and get solid references, from good journals. And, it's called doing research. You can just be a good researcher and give someone good information. But these people aren't even research. And so I say, well, what was their research? And they
But
go,
doc,
say, look, in the future, if you hear something that interests you that has to do with your body, something you might want to take into your body, then either look to see if they have any credentials in nutrition or diet, and if they don't, then see what kind of references, what kind of research did they do. Are they known to be a high quality researcher? And there's a lot of good ones. I've seen some podcasts. These people don't have technical degrees, but their research is stellar.
mhm,
And they'll give you references, and they'll like link down there my
mhm.
references.
Right.
So, and then you can follow up yourself. You can look at the references to see, are these credible references. And I do recommend people at least determine if they're real. Now, for example, especially now with Chat GPT. So of course, with the webinar that I have put together, of course, I went on Chat GPT to see if did I miss something or anything. And so I asked GPT certain questions, and they came with all these references. I went through every single references, and 5 of them didn't exist.
Ooh, ooh. Y'all
Did
need to
not
talk about
exist.
this AI.
Talk about. I got references for you.
13 references on a particular topic that I had asked about, just to see, if they came up with something I completely forgot to discuss. No, 'cause then I would have been like, oh, of course,
Hmm.
let me look into this. 5 of
Yeah,
them. I was like, okay, where
But
do
you
I
know what you need
that's
to
a
do
crazy.
to get ChatGPT to work better is tell them, these are fake.
Right, they were totally
Why
fake.
are you providing me with false references? And then it'll be, I am sorry. I did not know. um, thank you, Dr. Witherspoon. No, seriously, but you got in my ass one time. I think I asked you about eggs or something because of course I saw like some influencers talking about it. Not that I stopped consuming eggs because they said so, but I was like, should I be concerned? And I had my appointment with you, and you were like, no. You asked me what's their technical background. I'm like, oh, I just know they're on IG and they're like plant-based and vegan. And you're like, okay. And then you said, well, what studies are they referencing to make this statement? I was like, good question. I don't. And I'm going to drop
None.
this right now. Like, we don't need to have this conversation anymore. That's it. But it's like, put your thinking cap on, guys. Like, be critical, right? And like you said, do your own research and then follow up on what something may say is research, like you did with Chat GPT. So
Can you
look at
talk
our
all
doctor going
yes.
on AI. Yes,
Just to
Yeah,
make sure.
but I
love
go
it.
at the end of everything I do just to see did I miss anything.
Yes.
Right,
Hmm.
And
right.
but now if you notice, ChatGPT, there's a caveat and it says some of the things it brings up might be incorrect.
But those are facts, right? So it's like, again, stop. This is not the Bible, and even the Bible
And you
has some.
shouldn't even rely on it. Yes, yes. Can you, Dr. Witherspoon, can you talk about? I know you had shared with me in terms of like intermittent fasting, because that was something that you addressed with me when I shared with you, like, oh well, I don't eat breakfast until like maybe 11 or noon o'clock. And you like,
And I
no,
was like, what time do you get up?
right. You need to eat as in, once you get at least 2 hours within 2 hours of you getting up. And I just remember thinking about how I've seen all these advertisements about intermittent fasting and just eating within a certain window during the day of when you just eat and then you fast for 8, 12, I think 16 hours or something like that. And so that had, after talking with you, it just changed my mind. And I was like, okay, well, I just need to eat within 2 hours of waking up and then 2 hours, stop eating 2 hours before I
Right.
go to bed. So
Exactly.
yeah, that was just one of those things that I've learned when meeting
Well,
with you and
it's
you.
just that we're asking our body to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you wake up, I generally recommend people first have a glass of water because we're somewhat dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
But within the next 2 hours, your liver is looking for some protein. You're asking it to work, and you're not
Right.
giving it any fuel. And so when people tell me, well, I don't feel like having breakfast, I'm like, okay, no worries. Just have a 4-ounce protein drink within 2 hours of getting up.
Mm-hmm.
And at least then your liver will be happy and it can do its function without pulling resources and cannibalizing other parts of your body because it doesn't have the nutrients it needs.
Right.
So you don't have to have a full blown. A lot of people are just not hungry in the morning. That's fine.
Yeah.
But drink some water and just have a 4-ounce protein drink just so your liver and other parts of your body have the nutrients it needs because you're demanding it work.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
demanding your brain work. You're walking around and you're telling them to starve while you're doing this. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
like, get your
Absolutely.
life, guys, get
Yes.
your life.
Get it together.
But back to the things you recommend. So you mentioned too, you said eat organic, which we're all about because we talked about this in our big food episodes around a eat as organic as much as possible, but understanding that it is more expensive, but then it's like you have to think about, well, I can pay for this now and pay extra, or I'll be paying for it in the long run
You will.
with terrible health and just like lower quality of life. So, and then you mentioned about more exercise, introducing that. And you didn't say go to the gym, but it's just like movement, right? There
Right.
needs to be movement and being active. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I think gyms are fantastic, but most people, when they come, they kind of know their own style. Like some people, like I have to go to the gym because that's where I'm motivated. Whereas other people, like I can put on YouTube and do some salsa,
Yep.
Right.
and I'm fine. So some people are great working home. And there's some really good programs people can use to work at home where they have someone live who's guiding you to it. So it's kind of like you're at a gym if you want that
Right.
in between, or it's a rainy day and you can't get to your gym. But I'm always having people tell me, well, I don't exercise because I don't have time to get to the gym. I'm like, you have YouTube, no excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Get on
Hmm.
Yeah.
YouTube,
Yeah.
find some fun exercises. Like I follow these young ladies out of Nigeria. They do these Afro exercises. I don't know, anyone who's done African dance, it is a workout.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, my best friend, she trapped me in going to one of those dance classes, and everyone knew the steps. And I looked around, I was like, "Wait, you knew the script? How does everyone know the steps?" And that was the first and last time I went, but it was a workout. It
It
was a
was a
workout.
workout. Like I
I love
last
it.
15 minutes and then I need a 5 minute break.
Right.
Yes,
And
yes,
and
yes,
but but they're young too, so they're going for like a
Hmm.
full hour. I'm like,
right, right.
15 minutes. And also, you should know how your body works. So actually, women over 50 who are in menopause don't actually work doing a vigorous workout for more than 15-20 minutes actually starts working against you.
Mm.
So you need to know at what point in your life what type of exercise is best for you. And we have, you got Dr. Google, so you can go there and find out a lot of information.
Y'all go to it for everything else.
But um, you know, you need to be doing different types of exercises that build muscle, that build reserve. But definitely everyone has to do some level of aerobics because that's when your lymph is moving. Or if you just walk really fast, it has to be
Hmm.
fast. Like walking slow or strolling is not exercise. So you
Mm.
have to be walking briskly. So if someone's going to walk a mile every day really briskly, and moving their arms, breathing heavy, then that's great. But it's always good, particularly for women, whatever kind of exercise you're doing in terms of aerobics, is that you're moving your arms. Your arms need to be going up and down because that pumps the lymph and garbage out of your breast. So you want to make sure you're doing wide circles, your arms are moving in an up and down wide fashion in whatever type of exercises you're doing to constantly pump that cellular waste into your intestines and out of your body.
Okay. No, no, that's fantastic. Thank you for that, for information. Is there anything else you would say to maintain optimal health? Anything else people need to
Well,
consider and
I
just
think the other very important thing is to know how to either do guided meditations because you need to get to a still point in your body. And that's a critical portion of staying healthy, or learn some basic movements of Qigong. Qigong is breath and very slow movement, and it is only for health. There's Qigong for all different types of health issues, and they work. So it brings you to that still point in your body, and it it brings out those reserves and accesses that part of your body that knows how to heal you. But you won't ever find that if you're not still.
right?
So at some point in the day, or maybe you can't do it every single day, particularly if you have a bunch of kids running around, but you definitely have to make time a couple times a week to get to a quiet space, whether you're doing qigong quietly, or you're doing a meditation or a self meditation or a guided meditation, something that brings you into that space with that essence inside of you that knows how to heal, can now give you that guidance.
I love that. That
I
is
think
awesome.
that's a great way to deal with stress because stress is another thing that impacts your health. So
Right.
yeah,
I
Right.
like
That's
that.
that's
that's part
wonderful.
of that stress management,
Hmm.
Right.
to keep that cortisol in those right ranges.
Hmm.
Because if you're
Hmm.
just running around, and maybe you're really great person doing volunteering, doing all kinds of stuff, but if your stress is overwhelming your body, then you are systemically inflamed. You are going to break down.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes you're just not aware of that, right? So incorporating that meditation and self-awareness during your day, I think it's important because I think that was like one of my biggest issues. Like my
Right.
cortisol
Yes.
was off the
Hmm.
roof. And it's funny because I always thought, well, like, I don't know, I don't think I'm stressed, but it's because I've just been on
That's how
autopilot,
you've
if you will.
operated.
Yes, and that's just how I've operated. So I've now had to incorporate these,
Yeah,
you
you're one of
small
those power
changes.
women who show up.
Yes, and I
Who
don't
just
want
just
I don't
taking
want to
care
be
of
that strong
everybody,
woman.
who's got everything planned.
And what's
That
funny is
that's
that
you.
But what's funny is that I also had issues with my cortisol levels, but it wasn't because of stressors, because Nachi knows me enough to be like, I don't like to get stressed. I'm a nap enthusiast. But it was actually because my body was fighting my cat allergies that I didn't even know I was fighting.
Right.
So this is just,
Mhm.
and I bring that up because this is an example of how we have two very different factors that contributed to our cortisol levels being up, which can produce inflammation in different ways and manifest in
Yes.
different ways.
Exactly.
And if, again, only someone, a doctor that knows me like you and is approaching my health plan holistically can understand, oh, this is why this is happening to you, versus just like, I'm applying this one solution across the board to all of my
Right.
patients.
Right.
Same
And
thing.
that is the beauty of it. That is the beauty of naturopathic medicine and of you as a human being and an individual. I'm like, you are part of my soul family. You
Yes.
are part of this, like when I say, you are protected in this realm and the next. That's how I have my peoples looking out for you, Dr. Witherspoon.
Well, thank you.
So, yes. But I want to close this out because this has been such a great conversation. I'm pretty sure people are going to be like, bring her back, please. There's so much to talk about, but I think what we covered today was really important at a high level to really get people to start thinking about outside of just, I have a pain, can you address this? Or, um, and looking at the health, the overall well-being rather holistically. And so we thank you for being on the show today, for taking time out of your busy schedule to share and impart this information with our listeners. I would love for you to just remind people where they can find you online, and we'll absolutely put it in the show notes so that people can see it there too. Where can they find you, Dr. Witherspoon?
Well, I'm actually launching my Instagram, my business Instagram
Okay.
today. So you'll find me on
We'll put
Instagram
that
at
in.
Dr. C Witherspoon on Instagram. And
As always, I like to close out with, to our listeners, there's a lot of noise out there, but our message is consistent. Stop getting distracted by the smoke and mirrors and tune out the noise and focus on your purpose in life. What brings you joy in life? We're meant to be joyful, so focus on that and vibrate higher. And always, thank you for listening.